Now asking, who may this be? Who is he? I am currently reading Hello and Happy New Year. If you're new, my name is Michelle. I have made reading goals videos for the past 2 years now. I haven't done any follow-up or anything like that on those, but I always have a really fun time thinking about what I want to read next year, making some reading goals. This year, I went ahead and did 6 goals for 2026. First goal that I came up with, I actually started thinking about this back in September. I picked up a certain book and it really got me thinking about this category of books that I really want to try to read more of, try to get into. With each goal, I came up with some contenders that fit into the goal, but this is not a strict TBR. This is strictly ideas for myself when I'm looking back and trying to pick something, but also for you if you're interested in maybe picking one of these up. Without further ado, the first category is books on writing. I've already got a start on this goal. I hauled Montgomery's journals from Prince Edward Island. I have been reading and loving those. I'm now on volume 2. As you can see, I'm a little over halfway through that right now. These books are not specifically on writing, but they are Montgomery's journals about her life, which of course includes her writing, and most especially her writing of the Anne of Green Gables series. The next piece that I slotted on here, it's in this collection. It's On Writing by Virginia Woolf. I actually read this last year, but would love to revisit that. And it's also a great recommendation for a really short piece if you're interested on pieces on writing. What kicked all of this off was this book. It is Journal of a Novel by John Steinbeck. I picked this up at a used bookstore over the summer after I read East of Eden. East of Eden was my favorite book of last year, far and away. I picked this up. As you can see, I started reading it, but I was trying to read it one letter at a time, and that wasn't really working. So I'd like to read it and read it more in a way I'd read a novel or a different nonfiction piece, and more altogether than trying to do a letter a day or something like that. The structure of this book is very interesting. So while John Steinbeck was writing East of Eden, he, on the left page of his journal every morning, wrote a letter to his beloved friend and editor. And then on the right side, he wrote the text of East of Eden. So the letter was a warm-up and it prepared him for the task of writing East of Eden. This is a collection of those letters he worked on while writing East of Eden. Of the letters I've read and the intro so far, I'm loving it. It is really sad and heartbreaking, actually, but this is one I would really like to get to next year. Another reread that falls into this category is what I talk about when I talk about running by Haruki Murakami. My mom got me this for Christmas, so thank you, Mom. This is another reread. It was actually my first Murakami that I read. I read this before I read any of his works. This is an autobiographical piece by him, a memoir type of book, and the focus, as you may gather from the title, is about running. Murakami, if you didn't know, is a long distance runner, but he talks about running in conjunction with writing, which I found very interesting. Actually, the first time I read it, I didn't rank it very highly and I didn't completely enjoy it. It didn't change my life, I would say, but it has been several years since I read it and I keep thinking about it. I keep going back to it. So I thought it was a good one to put on this list. The next two I have already talked about, so I'm not going to get into them too much more. These were the two I hauled in Lunenburg. It is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott and On Writing by Stephen King. Then, along with my books on writing, I wanted to mention a little biography goal subset just because I got some for Christmas and I'm really excited to get to these now. My dad got me The Good Neighbor, Fred Rogers by Maxwell King. So this is a biography on Fred Rogers. I actually already started it and I'm loving that. The other one was a gift from my sister, so thank you so much. It's The Book of Lives by Margaret Atwood. This is a signed edition, which is really exciting. This past year, I saw it everywhere and I wasn't planning on reading it. I wasn't planning on buying it, and then I saw a signed edition when I was with my sister, and she said, I'm getting it for you for Christmas. So I'm very grateful for that. The next category is No Fear. I want to tackle long books and short books and not be afraid about my stats or a quantitative goal. I don't struggle as much with long books. I really love to be in a story and stick with it for several months. I also don't mind reading multiple things at once, which helps so I can read other shorter things while I'm enjoying my long book. I have a hard time picking up short stories. I very much am a read everything in order kind of person, so I would like to get better about reading the particular short story that calls to me at the time and putting the collection back down and picking up again when I feel like it. I didn't slot any books specifically into this category just because a lot on my shelves fits these categories. And again, I'm trying to read where the mood takes me. I will have her say, I'm currently reading Bleak House. This made an appearance in my 2024 reading goals. I haven't finished it yet. I'm happy to say I'm now making good progress. On page 800, I have about 200 pages left. This is one that I've carried over from last year, and I am determined to finish this book. Bleak House and I, Dickens and I, we have a complicated relationship, I will say. So I can't say I'm loving this book, but I also can't say I'm hating it. And maybe I'll follow up once I finish. The third category be for the Christmas holidays, the holiday season. I picked up The Queen of Spades by Pushkin and I loved it. I miss reading Russian. Dickens and Tolstoy were really the two authors that I read from during law school, and I haven't really returned to Russian lit since law school when I was reading a lot of it. And I loved Tolstoy. I love the Russian pieces that I've read so far. So I want to get back to that, get back into that. As you can see, I have quite the choices when it comes to Russian lit. I've been collecting these quite a bit longer, and I also acquired a lot of them while I was in law school. Didn't have as much time to read. I will spoil it, War and Peace isn't even on this stack. Not even a contender, not even in the running for next year. So going through them quickly, on the top, I put this short Russian story collection that I picked up in Ireland back in 2024. I've read a couple of these in other short collections, but the majority of these in here I haven't read. Again, tying into my other goal, I would like to pick this up and read what I want to read when I want to read it, and not necessarily the whole collection. Especially there are several shorter pieces in here by other authors I really want to read. So perhaps before I dive into one of their longer works, I can go to this little collection, read their shorter piece, and then have a baseline going into the next one. Now asking, who may this be? Who is he? Who is he? Who is he? My boy, Dostoevsky. I have been wanting to read more Dostoevsky since I read The Brothers Karamazov in 2023. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I would not change a single word in that novel. So when Barnes & Noble was having their sale, I picked up two more in the Pavere and Volkonsky translations. That's the same translators that translated My Brother's K edition, and I really liked their translation, so I wanted to try them again. I picked up Notes from the Underground. I've heard this is a good place to start. I've heard this one and or White Nights, which I do not have a copy of, sadly. Next up from Dostoevsky, I have Crime and Punishment, of course. I have never read this one. I've had the Penguin cloth bound of it for a while. I actually did pick it up It was November. I opened it up and the first sentence is, at the beginning of July, during a spell of exceptionally hot weather, towards evening, a certain young man came down on to the street from the little room he rented from some tenants in Lane and slowly, almost hesitantly, set off toward Ken Bridge. So it starts out and it's July. And I was picking this up in winter and I said, that's not really where I want to go, not really what I want to do right now. So it could turn into a very Dostoevsky heavy year, which I would love. It also might not, but I'm thinking if I get to Notes from the Underground soon, it's January, I have some time before July, then I could pick this one up at the start of July and sort of spend the summer with Crime and Punishment, which would lead nicely into The Idiot, which I can talk about in a minute. I forgot to mention, this is a different translator. It's Macduff, but I've heard really good things about him as well. My understanding is Piver and Vronsky are newer translators, and he's maybe one of the Russian translators who's previously translated a lot. No plans to revisit Brothers K this year, but depending how my Dostoevsky journey goes, it could be a really nice time to revisit this very large novel after I visit some of his other works. Stick with Dostoevsky for one more minute. Notes from a Dead House is his memoir-y autobiographical book, and it really ties into Brothers Karamazov. Again, this wouldn't be a this year goal, but it is something I'd really like to visit. And it's also a book on writing a little bit, which is interesting and fits into another category. Perusing my shelves, like I said, I have a lot of Russian lit, so I grabbed a couple more. These didn't even come to mind, but I have the beautiful Everyman's Library collection of all of Tolstoy's shorter pieces. So again, diving in and out of these ones. Translated by the Mods, of course. My translation of Anna Karenina was not the Mods. I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. I think it was Rosalind somebody. It's the Oxford World Classics edition hardcover of Anna Karenina, whoever translated that one. Then I forgot I got this. I got this at the same bookstore that I picked up Journal of a Novel, and that's Fathers and Sons by Turgenev. I was really drawn to this old edition. There's a little photo of him in it. So cute. But I could not for the life of me figure out who translated this one. Next up, I would like to read more Japanese literature. I, on a whim, started Duolingo Japanese last January, and I've been loving that. It gives me a little something to do every morning that keeps me off my phone, allows me to be on my phone while keeping me off my phone, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does. We live in the digital age. 2024 was really my year of getting into Japanese literature for the first time. I read Kafka on the Shore by Murakami, which I loved. I read The Housekeeper and the Professor. I don't remember who that's by. I read Kokoro by Soseishi, and I've just been loving it. I've been loving learning the language, and looking through my shelves, I actually don't have too much Japanese translated lit on it. I did pull two. Spoiler alert, one of these is not for this year. This big guy, it is The Tale of Genji. I bought this last year, and I actually started reading it a little bit. I'm so interested in it, but I really became interested because it says it's the oldest book, the oldest known book. Now, there's some debate about that because I recently had someone tell me that Don Quixote is the oldest book, but it depends how you define a book, and modern scholars view different things in different ways as books, but I'm still so interested in this one, and this is the lovely Penguin Deluxe Classics edition of that, which I've kind of been seeing everywhere. And of course, we got more So Shaky. I also just picked this up at Barnes & Noble. I saw it on a translated fiction end cap. I've never seen this edition. I love it. It's the vintage. It is I Am a Cat. And look how perfectly it matches my little outfit. To have this one again, it's similar to Kokoro and it talks about the Meiji era. It is told from the perspective of a cat. This is my only read this book goal of this year. It is to read Ulysses by James Joyce. It is beyond time. This has been on my TBR forever. I bought a banned books t-shirt from the Library of Congress when I was in high school, and my goal was to read every book on that shirt. Still haven't read Ulysses, and at this point it is officially the last one left on that shirt. I did start this when we went to Ireland a couple years ago. I was loving it, but when we got back actually was when I put it down. These are author portraits that are illustrated and digitized by Carolyn Marie Reeds, and I'm still using it as my bookmark, apparently. I have a couple of friends that are interested in reading this with me later this year. If you know, you know, and Bloom Day is in June, so I'm thinking that spring, summer can be a good time to tackle this one. So we'll see if that happens. I was reading them in order for a while there. I read Dubliners and then Portrait of an Artist. Then finally, my 6th goal. And it's the same goal as last year. I want to keep up with my book clubs. I've been having the best time this year. I was in 4 book clubs. Next year, I'm still going to be in 4, but it's more like 3. The first one is, of course, the Branching Out Book Club. The first book we are reading this year is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I've been seeing this book everywhere lately, and it comes highly recommended from many people in the book club. I already started this one on audiobook. I'm about 20 minutes in, loving it so far. The Bold Wolf Pack is continuing to read Baldwin through August this year. We are on Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone. When we read through all the descriptions of all of his work, this one was the one that intrigued me the most. We're reading this January, February. I haven't started it yet. It sounds like most people are starting it end of January, early February. So we'll be getting to that one then. My in-person book club hit 1 year in December, which was so exciting. Our first pick of this year for January was The Martian by Andy Weir. I've already finished it. Ryan and I listened to it on audiobook on our various car rides over the holiday season, and I ended up really liking that one. Game of Thrones, I just found out, is going to be continuing on for another year, and I've already read 2 out of the 3 books. I say 2 out of the 3 because it's more like a section. The first one they're reading is Moby Dick, which I read back in high school. When I read it in high school, I did not love it. I never thought I'd be returning to Moby Dick, and I will not this year, but I have a lot of friends who've been reading it, and it's come up a lot in my life, and I do think about it a lot, and I think it is a classic that would be worth revisiting when I get to it. Next up, they picked Anne of Green Gables, which I just reread. I'll link that video up there. And then finally, it's actually quite perfect, and this is sort of why I said it's shaping up to be a Dostoevsky year. I think the pieces are just falling in place. Finally, to wrap up the year, they're reading The Idiot by Dostoevsky. So I'm sitting in a pile of all of my books. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that maybe I gave you some ideas or introduced you to some new books. I want to hear what your 2026 reading goals are, so put those in the comments below. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a new video. Bye.